Hello, students. So the goal of today is to learn the names of the different muscles. So much like we did with bones, we spent a lot of time in lab, in particular with the bones, looking at just what is the name of this. So I pick up a bone, here's the femur, here's another bone, that's the tibia. That's kind of the goal for today, only it is for muscles. Now, I want to direct you to some resources. Just like with the bones, the more active you are in this, the more ways you engage your brain, the better. And so I wanted to alert you to a few resources we have. The first resource that I think may be the most useful in a virtual setting is if you go to Schoology, Unit 5, Muscular System, Notes and Study Guide. If you click on the study guide, you will find a PDF. And here you have your objectives, your study guide outline, just like you typically would get in class. And then down below are all the coloring pages. You'll notice that I've X'd out those muscles that I don't expect you to know, and so there's quite a few that have been removed. And so color coding these, whether or not you have orange or not, if you just color that in blue and then color the frontalis muscle blue, I think coloring these is a worthwhile activity to help learn those names. So that's one choice, and again, I'm not going to collect that, check it, you just want to do what you got to do to figure out the names of the muscles. So that is one tool that I think would be really useful. A second tool that would be useful is the mannequins. Now, obviously, if we're not in class, you don't have access to your mannequin, but I do have some resources that you could still watch and observe, and I think it's kind of worth doing. So if you click on this video, you will see a video of me building various muscles of the face in clay. And normally during class, I would have you watch that video and build your own, but obviously in a virtual setting, that's not going to happen. But I think watching that video is worthwhile. And as you watch it, this Google slideshow here is useful. Miss Longley actually put this together, and it basically just has you go through these slides and look at pictures. So here's the video. It's a great little thumbnail that happened to get pulled from that. And then it just has you go through and simply write the name of the muscle down. Note that you don't need to write the origin and insertions for each muscle. These are here just to kind of help you figure out how to build these muscles, which we're not doing anyway. But I think it's worth writing down the name and then the action so that you can see what these muscles do. And so basically, as you watch the video, you can see a picture of what the muscle looks like on a figure, what the muscle would look like in a mannequin, and then you can kind of see me build it. So I do think it's worth going through this and maybe watch the video of each muscle, color code each muscle, and then away you go. So what I'm going to do on this screencast then is just kind of walk through verbally and talk about them. And for some of you, maybe this is enough to just watch this and you're good. But I think for most of you, you're going to want to do something a little bit more active. So the study guide coloring pages, if you have printing capabilities, print and color, and then the mannequin video at least just to kind of watch some of those muscles. So here we go. The first group of muscles that I'm going to have you learn are the muscles of the head. Now, if you go on in anatomy in college, you will likely have to learn the name, the origin, the insertion, and action of over 100, maybe 200 different muscles. It's pretty crazy how detailed and specific. And origin and insertion is not just, ulna, it would be the lateral condyle of the dorsal surface of the, it's crazy how much memorization there is for this. I'm going to spare you all that in this semester long course. I don't know that it's worth our time to try and cram all those in. I'll kind of leave that, but just know that's coming if you do want to study more anatomy. Really, I just want to give you a feel for what these muscles are. So the muscles of the head, the first one I want to highlight is what's called the frontalis. And the frontalis is this muscle here on your forehead. And if you look closely at this figure, I can zoom in on it here for you. If you look closely at this figure, you'll notice that those lines, those muscle fiber lines, are pointing vertically. And so if it shortens in that direction, that's going to look like this. If you look at my picture in the screen on the little image on the corner. And so what this does is it actually raises your eyebrows. So when you do that, that is the frontalis, and that is actually fairly easy to remember because the frontalis sits over the frontal bone, which sits over the frontal lobe. So there's some consistency there, which is nice. The next muscle is the temporalis, and the temporalis muscle closes the jaw. Again, conveniently, the temporalis muscle covers the temporal lobe and the temporal bone. And you can see it sort of fans out like that across the whole surface, and it comes down to a point. You can see it better over here in the mannequin image. It kind of comes down to a point, and it tucks under that zygomatic arch. That's why we have the zygomatic arch, in fact, is so that that muscle can tuck under, and then it attaches to the jaw. And if you look at the muscle fiber lines, you can see that it kind of is drawn out like a fan with these sort of, fans out from that point. And so that's going to be involved in closing the jaw, like that. The next, we're going to skip all that. That's all designed for the mannequins. The next group of muscles is the orbicularis oculi. So these are circular muscles that are around your eye. These are used in winking, blinking, closing your eyes, that kind of thing. Notice that term orbicularis. Think orbit for a circular muscle, even though orbits are elliptical in nature. So orbicularis, think orbit, and then oculi, think eye, like ocular. And so the orbicularis oculi is around the eye, and that kind of helps you blink. The masseter is this muscle right here. It attaches just under the zygomatic arch and then covers part of the mandible down here. And if you look at those muscle fiber lines, you can imagine shortening in this way. This is also going to help you close your jaw. And you might think, wait, isn't the temporalis muscle, this one up here, wasn't that involved in closing the jaw? And the answer is yes. Oftentimes, more than one muscle can be involved in the same action. So when you close your mouth, you are using both the masseter and the temporalis muscles. One other cool thing about the masseter is if you clench your jaw really tight, and if you look at my picture in the corner, you might feel this little bulge coming out. That is the masseter muscle that's bulging out. Orbicularis oris. Hey, orbicularis. What shape is that muscle going to be? Orbicularis, orbit, circular? Did you say circular? It's circular. This is around the mouth. Think oral. So oris, orbicularis oris. This goes around the mouth and basically makes up your lips. So we've got kind of a sexy Michael Jackson lips thing going here. And so that's involved in kind of pursing your lips and smooching and that kind of thing. The orbicularis oris. And then finally the zygomaticus. The zygomaticus, as you might expect, attaches to the zygomatic bone of the skull, and it attaches to the corner of the orbicularis oris. And so this muscle is involved in kind of pulling up the corners of your mouth. So if you look at my image, it kind of is like, kind of like a fake smile. If you're like, that's the zygomaticus. So to recap, you got the frontalis. That's what makes your eyebrows raise. The temporalis on the temporal bone, that's involved in closing your jaw. The masseter is right here. That's kind of the bulgy one. That's also involved in closing the jaw. The orbicularis oculi, that goes around the eye. It's involved in winking and blinking. And then the orbicularis oris is around the mouth. And then finally the zygomaticus, which is the fake smile. So again, the mannequin video, if you click on that link under activities and resources on Schoology, you can watch a video of me building those muscles. And then you can also do the coloring packet. So here are some other muscles that I'm going to have you guys learn. So the sternocleidomastoid is next. This is in the neck. And you can see it attaches to the sternum and the clavicle down here, and the mastoid process that's involved in turning your head like that. In the chest, you've got what are called the intercostal muscles. These are in between the ribs. So if you go to C&G Smoke and Barbecue at 48th and Nicollet, Order a rack of ribs, you're basically eating the intercostal muscles of a pig. The ab muscles, you'll notice there's a bunch of them. So on the outside are what are called the external obliques. They're called that because they're on the outside. So if you touch the edge of your abdomen, you're touching the external obliques. If you cut into those and peel them back in dissection, right below there, you will find the internal obliques. And what's interesting is the external obliques, they go this way. Those little muscle fiber lines point in this direction, but the internal obliques point in that direction. They're at opposite angles. Then just below the internal obliques, you have the transversus abdominis, which is horizontal. And then in the center, you've got vertical lines for the rectus abdominis. I skipped a page. The rectus abdominis, which is vertical, and that's what makes your six-pack, or in my case, eight-pack. So between these four, you've got these muscle fibers pointing in all four different directions, and that's why you can, make your ab muscles kind of rotate around and do all that crazy stuff. The pectoralis major, that's your pecs, that's your chest muscles. So if you're doing, push-ups or bench press, that's what you're using. The deltoid is in your shoulder. So if you're doing this kind of a lift, that's the deltoid. The biceps is in your forearm. So when you flex your arm like that, you're using the biceps. And the triceps is underneath. And when you straighten your arm out, you're using the triceps. In the back, the trapezius is your upper back. And so if you're doing like shoulder shrugs, you're using the trapezius. The rotator cuff is a group of muscles in your shoulder blade. So when you're kind of like, rotating your arm, you're using the rotator cuff back there. The latissimus dorsi is your lower back. In the legs, the quadriceps are the front of the top of your leg, and then the hamstring are the back of your upper leg. So your upper leg, the front is the quadriceps, the back is the hamstrings, and then the largest muscle in the body, the gluteus maximus, that's basically your butt, and then just below that is the gluteus medius. And then in the lower leg, you've got the tibialis anterior, which is the muscle in the front of your tibia, anterior to the tibia. So that name makes sense. And then back, your calf muscle is called the gastrocnemius back there. So one final thing, if, different cuts of meat are from different muscles. So ham, for example, you're eating pig butt. That's kind of interesting. Bacon is the ab muscles. Ribs are the ribs. And so, these figures are kind of interesting to look at when you order a cut of steak or pork. What part of the animal is that coming from? So that's pretty much it. Again, watching this for 10 minutes isn't going to do it. You really need to get engaged. Color code, watch the mannequin video, draw it out, whatever works for you. And then there's some Schoology quiz questions that will help you review. And this is basically a Schoology quiz, is just naming these. So I'd recommend doing some work to self-study and learn, and then you can try these quizzes on Schoology and see how you do identifying these. And just practice and review is the way to go. So, and the answer key is there as well. So one final thing I did want to mention with the hamstrings, why they're called the hamstrings. It's because these tendons behind your knee, when they would smoke hams in smokehouses, they would actually use these tendons to tie them up in the smokehouse and hang basically this part of the pig in a smokehouse, and they would smoke them to make the ham. And so this muscle is called the hamstring because these are the strings used for ham. So little fun fact to close out. I wasn't sure if I'd have time, but I did, so I threw it out there. So your task is to learn these muscles. So hopefully you have enough tools and resources to do that. Let me know if you have questions. Thank you very much.